Hi all, welcome back to a new post today, and I hope you all are doing wonderfully well. So today there is some important news coming up between India and Vietnam, where we see that India is being seen as the largest defense provider, especially in South Asia. It is being seen as a reliable defense partner for many of the Southeast Asian countries, especially those countries which have certain glitches with the neighboring country China in the South China Sea. And today we have the Defense Minister of Vietnam, who is on a visit for 2 days to India, and we've seen some important developments happening from the Indian side to the Vietnam side, which only reinforces the trust of the Vietnam government in India, seeing India as the largest defense provider and also a good security provider, and apart from that, a good security training provider as well to the Southeast Asian countries. So let's have a quick review of the developments and also the recent development between India and Vietnam, which will help you to build further on this topic. So India and Vietnam, let me tell you, are neighbors, and Vietnam is an important part of our Look East policy, and they share a comprehensive strategic partnership since 2016, and defense cooperation now has become a very key pillar not only between India and Vietnam but also India and many of the Southeast Asian countries, and very recently Philippines. So Vietnam is an important partner in India's Act East policy and also Indo-Pacific vision. India has recently gifted Vietnam the indigenously built missile corvette called as INS Kirpan to Vietnam to only enhance the country's security and naval capabilities. Now, why was this gift? What is the significance of gifting of the INS Kirpan to Vietnam? So China has been aggressively flexing its muscles in the South China Sea, and India has gifted this corvette to Vietnam. India is going to also train a Vietnamese personnel in submarine and also fighter jet operations, maritime security, and also multinational cooperation, also submarine operations as well. So we see India being a net provider of defense capabilities to Vietnam, and also we see the trust Vietnam is imposing in India by learning these capabilities and to equip its personnel with the capabilities from the Indian side. Vietnam is also planning to acquire the surface-to-air missile systems and also the BrahMos supersonic and other military hardware, and this was recently reinforced during the visit of the Defense Minister of Vietnam to DRDO. The gifting of INS Kirpan is a milestone in increasing the capabilities of the Vietnamese security personnel, and this was said by our very own Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. Now, the INS Kirpan is a Kukri class missile corvette displacing 1315 tons and also was commissioned into the Navy just in 1991. The ship is fitted with a medium range gun and also a 30 millimeters close range guns, chaff launchers, and also the surface to surface missile, enabling it to perform a wide variety of roles including coastal and offshore patrol, coastal security, surface warfare, anti-piracy, and also humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations. So this is the importance of the INS Kirpan that has been gifted to Vietnam, and this was done and said by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh during his bilateral talks with the Vietnamese counterpart General Phan Van Gian, who is on a visit to India, and he also visited the headquarters of the DRDO, as I said earlier. They discussed various ways to deepen the defense industrial capabilities in cooperation in defense research and also joint production. China has been regularly sending warships and also survey vessels into the Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. Exclusive economic zone is the zone where a country has powers over the territorial waters, and this is stoking tensions, especially in the already contentious South China Sea due to Beijing's expansionist territorial claims against its neighbors and most importantly Vietnam. Now, facing similar China salami slicing tactics, as we call in international relations, on its land borders, India has also been upgrading its defense ties with many of the ASEAN countries, especially Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, and recently Philippines. Philippines has also purchased the BrahMos missile from India, and we also carry regular joint exercises, military exchanges, and also training programs as well. India is also aimed to crack up its arms supplies to the ASEAN countries, and as I've already mentioned, India is also already selling the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile to Philippines, and the ASEAN countries. And recently, a $375 million deal was struck with Philippines for the 290-kilometer range BrahMos missile in January 2022, very recently. Vietnam is an important partner of the India's Act East policy and also the Indo-Pacific region and also Indo-Pacific vision of India. India has been training the Vietnamese fighter pilots to fly Sukhoi 30 jets as well as sailors in the underwater combat operations in the Kilo class submarines, both of which are operated by the two countries, India and Vietnam. Vietnam also asked for an increase of the annual 60 training slots for its personnel in India and in various Indian military institutions. This was also agreed by India to do so. Assuring Vietnam of all possible help in modernizing the armed forces, India has also last year handed over 12 high-speed guard boats under a $100 million line of credit to the country. The two countries also jointly inked a joint vision document to significantly enhance the scope and scale of their bilateral relations, especially the defense ties by 2030, while also finalizing a reciprocal logistics supports pact to allow their militaries to use each other's bases for repair and replenishment supplies. Now, it is the first field training exercise that the two countries took part, and a contingent of the Vietnam's People Army was also hosted by India for the 3-week Winbacks or the VINBAX exercise in August last year. So we see a very strong deepening of military ties, defense ties between India and Vietnam. Now, later in the day, the general, that is the defense minister, laid a wreath at the National War Memorial and also was given a tri-service guard of honor. He is on a 2-day visit to India. In 2022, let me tell you that India and Vietnam signed an MOU on mutual logistics support in the presence of the defense ministers of the south of the two countries. And this joint statement, vision statement on India-Vietnam defense partnership towards 2030 was also signed at that very time. This is significant because the existing defense cooperation is only upgraded by this vision statement. Hanoi has already procured 12 high-speed boats from Vietnam Border Guard Force under the $100 million line of credit extended to Vietnam by India in 2014, and in 2016 India gave another line of credit of $500 million defense line of credit to Vietnam. This is again showing the strengthening of defense ties between India and Vietnam. India has also announced the gifting of 2 simulators and also monetary grants towards setting up of a language and IT lab at the Air Force Officers Training School for capacity building for the Vietnamese armed forces. So you can see a hand-in-hand cooperation between India and Vietnam with regard to defense capability, training and also production, and also the inventories with regard to the Vietnam's Air Force capabilities as well. So I hope this information was really helpful to you all to lay the foundation on this very topic, and I shall see you in my next post. Until then, very happy learning.